is one of the most debated sandwiches in American cuisine of all time. So of course, we gotta rock the boat. Step our foot in this dangerous territory without first assessing the landscape. So we're gonna go all the way out to Philadelphia just to eat cheesesteaks to make a point here. And since traveling and food go hand in hand, that's where today's sponsor, Geico, comes in. Combining your home and car insurance could save you even more. So head down to the link in the description to see how much you could save.
You know, if anyone has any recommendations on this, just let me know. Love some help. This Halo. All right, so we're in Philadelphia right now, here to eat Philly cheesesteak. We can't do a Philadelphia cheesesteak recipe and not go to Philadelphia, okay? Pay respect. Let's begin. First one of the day, Tony Luke's. I wanted it to be John's roast pork, but they're closed on Monday. Did not know that was gonna happen. This happened last time when we went to Nashville, and all the ones I wanted to go to were closed. My first unveiling, so I'm kind of excited. Oh my God. I have a couple of first thoughts on this. The bread is dope. God, Philadelphia is very loud. So it's good, but it really needs salt. Like, it's missing a lot of salt. I feel like this isn't the best representation, if I'm being honest. Everybody has a different opinion. I don't think this is gonna be the best one. Let's move on to the next. Okay, so we made it to D'Alessandro's. It's closed, actually. It said it was open on Google. I don't know, I guess they decided Josh is coming, we really don't wanna do that. Fair enough. So we're going next to Max's, which was recommended by Ufu Jabber. The two ones that I really wanted to go to are not open, but thanks so much. Upward and onward. So as per recommendation, Max's. Got to see everything up close and personal, so I have a good idea of how they assembled it. Really beef heavy. I got same thing as last time, clearly different in my opinion. Juicier. They ladled juices onto this one. Yeah, this is it. See, this is what we were missing at the last one. Salt is there, the pepper's there. It's seasoned just about right. I would want a little more salt if it was me, but I'm not unhappy with this bite at all. They hit it with mayo. That's the secret. That's an optional thing. In my opinion, mandatory. Second stop and so far the best spot. We have one last one, Steve's. Steve's Prince of Steaks, our final destination. They said hello here for everyone working in the back. If you're watching, hey, big papa kiss to you. Visually, looks solid. First off, cheese pull already. I just opened it, we're already. The steak is very uniformly cut, which I do like. They lay it out, but they actually put the onions on top and then the cheese and all that and then layer it in here and melt it. It's a little more almost culinary inclined. This was my third most recommended. Number one being D'Alessandro's. Number two, John's roast pork. Max's was the best out of the three. And this is probably on the bottom tier. No salt at all. But you know what? If they seasoned this maximally with salt, it would be perfect. It would change this sandwich completely. Patty, no buns. Groovy. Every single person in Philadelphia that's from Philadelphia or currently resides here told me specifically never, ever to go to Gino's or Pat's, like the one that everyone talks about that doesn't live in Philadelphia. So the locals, they don't like it. We were gonna go there, time doesn't allow it. I just wanted to mention that. It's been several hours, we leave tomorrow morning. I've got the context that I need. So without further ado, let's make this, shall we?
Okay, so if we're gonna make a cheesesteak, the first thing we must discuss is bread. Of course, not just any bread. It must come on a long hoagie roll. Sometimes with sesame seeds, sometimes without them. In this case, we love sesame seeds. So the first thing you're gonna do is not go to the grocery store because we're grown-ups, and instead we're going to make our own from scratch to fully flex on all cheesesteaks, but also to maximize our control in the final product. To do that, we're gonna begin with our dough. If you think we're using cups in this, you would be wrong, because we want accurate numbers here. So get yourself a large bowl and add 950 grams of bread flour, 20 grams of fine sea salt, and 12 grams of granulated sugar. In a separate container, get yourself 589 grams of water and bring it to a temperature around 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Whisk in 3 grams of instant yeast, and that's your little yeasty gentleman. To your flour mixture, vigorously whisk in 50 grams of extra virgin olive oil, then add all of your cloudy yeast juice. I keep trying to come up with grotesque ways to say yeast mixture, so can we get a rating on that? Okay, all right, not bad. Right, anyway, begin mixing that by hand. I want that mind, body, and dough connection. Mix that just until you get a shaggy dough, and yes, it will be sticky, so stay calm. Clean off the excess dough from your hands, cover with plastic wrap, and let that rest at room temp for 15 minutes. Then pull the dough out. It should be a little easier to handle. Give it a quick knead by picking it up and slapping it down over itself, repeating that over and over for about 1 minute. It's also called slap and fold, or until it begins to turn smooth. Cover that again with plastic wrap and let it rest for another 15 minutes at room temp. Then give it one more slap and fold for another minute or so till very smooth. Then roll that into a lightly doit ball. Lightly grease a work surface, place your dough on there, and cover with an inverted bowl and let that rest for 45 minutes to 1 hour. Just go find something to do, play chess or something. Once it's done, it should be a nice rotund dough. Split that guy into 4 even pieces weighing about 400 grams each, and I'm tired of telling y'all this. Please, weigh your dough pieces out. What are you gonna do if you have one regular sized hoagie and then some awkward little 4-inch hoagie? Anyway, shape those by gathering up all the sides and bring them to the center, roll it over so the seam side is facing down, then gently roll it in circles, keeping constant contact with your work surface until you get a smooth ball. Place that ball in an individual container that has been generously greased with cooking oil. You can either use smaller bowls or containers like these guys, or a dough proofing box. Most containers will work here. Now cover those with a lid or with plastic wrap and place in the fridge for 1 to 4 days. Yep, this dough can be made several days in advance. 2 days is probably the ideal time though. To bake the dough, first pull your dough out and let them come up to room temp for 3 hours. Once those are room temp, get yourself a large tea towel or a couche, dust it lightly with rice flour or all-purpose flour to prevent sticking. Rice flour does do a better job with the non-sticky part. Then to shape your dough, flour the top, pop it out of its container so the unfloured side is facing up, gently press the dough to flatten into a small rectangle, then fold it in half away from you, brush off any excess flour, and fold it in half the same direction one more time, pinch the seams closed, roll it over so the seam side is facing down, create some tension, rolling it out to taper the ends as you get close to them until it's 12 inches long. Then very lightly brush the top with some water and roll it in untoasted sesame seeds to coat the entire dough except for the bottom. Now place your torpedo of flavor onto your couche, gently furl up the couche to cradle the dough like this and repeat with the rest of your dough. And next thing you know, you've got a bunch of little gentlemen snuggling next to each other. Oh, so cute. Now for a short nap before launching into a hellfire of a hot oven. Cover that with excess couche, temp with plastic wrap, and let it proof for 2 hours. Yes, it's a long process, all right? 1 hour before they're ready, add a baking steel to your oven and heat to 500 degrees Fahrenheit or as hot as your oven will allow. Then once your dough is done proofing and your oven is preheated, lightly dust a pizza peel with rice flour or semolina. Carefully roll your dough onto the peel. Don't just pick it up like some barbarian, all right? You're gonna degas all that hard work. Make sure the sesame side is facing up, then dip a razor blade, or more specifically, a lame, in some water and score the entire length of dough beautifully. Then launch it into your preheated oven, spray the dough in parts of the oven, avoiding the glass door on the oven. That's a hazard to say the least. Close the door promptly, then after 2.5 minutes, spray the dough again, wait another 2.5 minutes, and spray the dough for a final and third time. Then just let it bake for 8 to 12 minutes or until a beautiful golden brown. Remove your hoagie from the oven and cool in a wire rack and repeat with the remaining 3 pieces of dough. Okay, so the hardest part is out of the way, because really making a Philly cheesesteak is easy as long as you follow some of the rules. So first thing you're gonna need is a green bell pepper. Take that and throw that right out the window because it seems that most of Philadelphians don't find that traditional, so nice. Let's talk about my meat, or well, our meat, or the meats. Here we have a 4-pound boneless rib roast that was in the freezer for 30 minutes just to firm it up a little bit. And look, this needs to be sliced real thin. You can absolutely do it with a sharp knife, but if you want to speed things up, then I'd recommend using a deli meat slicer, which is like, okay, I understand papa being papa, and should you desire not to spend money on something that's kind of ridiculous like that, then obviously just use your knife. Now go ahead and slice that bad boy as thinly as you can while maintaining the structural integrity of the meat. Should look something like this. Then you'll sort of reach a point where slicing any thinner becomes impossible and or dangerous, which in that case, just go ahead and save the rest of that steak for a date night or something. Anyway, for some extra fatty flavor, snag 2 pounds of boneless short ribs or 3 pounds of bone-in short ribs, and of course, remove their bones, and slice those against the grain about 1/8 of an inch thick. Don't leave this out because the marbling of this will go a long way in the final product. All right, next up is oignon. Some say slices, others say dice. Well, the way I'd like to do it is get yourself 3 sweet onions, cut the top off, then the bottom, cut it in half, peel it, and slice that into big, chunky 1-inch pieces like this. Now we're ready to cook. Okay, so you're gonna get yourself a little pan, right? Little baby pan? Little stinky pan? No. Well, maybe. Listen, you need this to be cooked on a griddle or plancha of some sort. That's how it's normally done. Trust Papa when he says plancha cooking hits different. A large cast iron griddle pan that goes on your stovetop will work fine, but Papa has other plans. I literally bought this only for this video. So heat up half your griddle to medium high and the other half to low. Fill a squirt bottle with half a cup of vegetable oil and half a cup of melted warm tallow, which is just rendered beef fat, which by the way, you can acquire from any beef fat trim. For example, like the beef fat trim from the rib roast you have. All you have to do is rough chop it, place it in a pan, heat over low, stirring often until all the fat is rendered out. Then just strain that through a fine mesh strainer and well, that's your tallow. It's optional, but it adds a ton of flavor. Now once your griddle is hot, good lord, Jandis, squirt it with your beef fat oil and let that get nice and hot. Then add a third of your sweet onion, season that to taste with salt and a small pinch of sugar. Saute that, stirring and flipping often for about 5 minutes or until your onions are soft and have begun to get some charring and nice caramelization. Slide those onions to the cooler side of the griddle, squirt the hot side with some more oil, with some more beef fat, and let that heat just until it begins to smoke. Then add a third of your sliced beef, let that sear nicely for about a minute, then season to taste with salt, let that continue to sear for another 30 seconds to a minute. One of my biggest gripes was the lack of color on the beef in the Philly cheesesteaks that I had. So when you flip your beef, you should see a decent amount of color. Just be forewarned, if you let it go too long, it'll go dry. Now flip and sear the other side, season again to taste with salt and a generous fresh crack of black pepper. Then once it's seared and cooked through, but still juicy, about 1 to 2 more minutes, give that a nice rough chop with a spatula, mix together with your onions, and at this point you're ready to add your cheese. Be aware that this is only a third of your batch, so you could obviously be doing this in 3 batches, so you can get proper color. Now bring everything together in a rough line, about the shape of a full hoagie. This is enough meat for 1 to 2 sandwiches, depending on how you like it. Layer on 3 to 4 slices of provolone cheese, which is ideally sharp provolone. Then just let that melt. You can also speed up the melting process with the use of Papa's magic wand, which is also known as a blowtorch. Now while it's melting, get your hoagie, cut in half, but leave the back end attached so it's got something to stop the meat from falling out the other end. Optionally spread on a nice layer of mayo, if you roll like that. This is just a basic garlic mayo consisting of 1 cup of mayonnaise and 4 cloves of grated garlic, seasoned to taste with salt and whisked together. Beautifully simple, yet incredible. Now once that cheese is melted, get a large spatula and scoop up your meat, and good lord, that cheese pull's finna make me act up. Now add as much cheesesteak as you like into your bread, close it up, observe its jaw-dropping cheesy features, and take a moment to see if we hit the nail on the head or not here. Well, would you look at that? Now this
is what I was looking for.
This hoagie is doit. I mean, it's got the,
oh my god, it's kind of squishy.
it's juicing. Oh, good lord, have mercy on my soul. I'm about to
Bus!
Good lord! There's almost too much flavor in this compared to the ones that we had. Right off the bat, to me this tastes like what I imagined a Philly cheesesteak to taste. It's unctuous, rich. The beef flavor is just like, and that extra beef fat really does help. This hoagie is soft, spongy, chewy on the outside, and that garlic mayo. I mean, really, this is a perfect food. I think I could only eat one of these though, and I'd be done. Just could use mustard. The Philadelphians are like, what? Hey kid, you can't just be going put a mustard on a Philly cheesesteak. What's wrong with you? I think what we made today was an excellent Philly cheesesteak. I don't know what the Philadelphians think. Let us know in the comments, but you know, visually looking at this, tasting it, this is what I felt a Philly cheesesteak should have been from the get-go. But this is not a but better, and secondarily, we have one more special Philly cheesesteak that is not exactly traditional, but we're gonna do it anyway. Okay, so that was definitely a big dub, but what if we took it a step further and made a Philly cheesesteak, but you know, with A5 Miyazaki Wagyu? Real simple. This time we're just going to julienne a sweet onion. Get that sauteing with your beef fat, season to taste with salt. Then once that gets some decent color, scoot it to the side. Next, get a ½ pound of oyster mushrooms, rough chop them, heat a pan with 2 tablespoons of butter or your beef fat over medium-high. Then once it's ripping hot, add your mushrooms, season to taste with salt and pepper, and let those sear, stirring often for about 3 minutes or until softened with some light browning. Place it to the side. Now, optionally, one more thing. You know, we might as well make this extra fancy by making a fried garlic sage topping. First, heat up ½ cup of oil in a small pan over medium-high, and while it's heating, add your garlic first and let that come up naturally with the heat and fry just until golden brown. Then remove it, and once the oil is hot, add your sage and fry just until it begins to stop bubbling and crisp. Drain on a paper towel, then combine those two and crush together, and that's your topping. All right, we're almost there. Snag yourself a 20 to 25 ounce A5 Miyazaki Wagyu ribeye. Portion that bad boy into sliceable segments. I like to separate out the eye and cut it into 2 manageable pieces. There's more to this obviously, but you can save that for another time. Place that directly on an ungreased, hot side of the griddle and let that sear. Season your meat generously with salt and let that sear for 2 to 3 minutes. Flip and enjoy a tantalizing sizzle of beefy beauty. And sear the other side for another 2 to 3 minutes. Remove from the griddle and let that rest for 5 minutes. Then while that's resting, let's make our spicy mayo. Get a medium-sized bowl and add ½ cup of mayo, a ¼ cup of Cholula, 3 tablespoons of sriracha, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and salt and pepper to taste. Give that a nice little whisk until thoroughly combined. Then all you gotta do is toast your bread quickly in that beautiful beef fat, stack on a nice big slice of Swiss cheese, a couple slices of smoked Gouda, melt those guys down with a blowtorch or a broiler, then add a generous layer of your spicy mayo, followed by your onions, then mushrooms. Slice your beef beautifully, about 1/3 of an inch thick, then place that atop your sandwich, top with your optional fried sage and garlic, close the hatch, tuck a napkin in your shirt, put on your Italian leather Gucci shoes, and enjoy the most luxurious cheesesteak to grace any kitchen. And who knows, maybe it's even better. Let's find out. You know, after spending literally $400 or $500 on this entire just one sandwich, I don't want to eat it. Does that sound bratty?
A little bit.
But it's a circumstantial thing. It does look good.
Oh, wow.
This is actually a lot better than the original Philly cheesesteak. Thank God. Thank God. I was really worried. I thought it was gonna be too rich. It's actually not. The bread is just spongy enough that it absorbs all that fat. I mean, you can see it absorbing the fat, and it's not overly so. It's not like it's gushing beef fat directly in my mouth. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit of squirt squirt. That's all right. We talked about how juicy squirt squirt's the way to go. The fattiness, the juiciness, the richness. I even went in for a second bite and I meant that bite. All things that we've tested. We've done the original, we've done this fancy version. In my opinion, this is a more exciting bite. They're equally sort of like rich, but to me, this is more exciting. This is juicier. This has a lot more flavors going on, but it's not a cheesesteak. It's not. It does have steak and cheese, but it's not. If I were to pick one, I probably would pick this one right here. We made 2 sandwiches, the regular Philly cheesesteak, this unnecessarily expensive one. If you have the means to make an expensive one, I would highly recommend it, but either way, they're both beautifully, mind-numbingly delicious. Just make a dang cheesesteak and do me a favor, do it the right way. You wanna know what else spends $500 just to make an incredibly unnecessarily fancy cheesesteak? B-roll. Guys, that is it. We are back home. Thank you again to our friends at Geico for sponsoring today's video. They're helping me with my culinary journey around the United States, and they want to help you too. Of course, by helping you save money on your home and car insurance. So head over to the link down below and visit geico.com today. Now let's talk about this Philly cheesesteak. We made 2 different versions. The second one's more of like an ethereal dream that was like formulated in my brain and spat out on a plate and actually ended up pretty good. It's a little sacrilegious in what a cheesesteak should be, but I do what I want. Do I think that we paid respect and homage to the tradition of what a Philly cheesesteak should be? Yes, I do. Was I disappointed with many of the places we went to? I'll leave that up to you to decide. But with all that said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you